I'm just gonna say it. Definition of an unpopular opinion. I prefer driving drunk people more than I prefer driving sober people. That's the right word. Basically, I prefer driving on Friday and Saturday nights more than the morning and evening commutes. And again, I know this is a very unpopular opinion among a lot of drivers, but I do want to talk about this. A lot of people, when it comes to being an Uber driver and a Lyft driver, when I talk to a lot of people, sometimes people are like, hey, Mark, I actually want to try it, but I'm worried about this or this. And the number one concern I get from a lot of people is people saying, hey, Mark, I'm not going to lie. I want to be a driver. I actually think it's great, good side cash. I can drive whenever I want, et cetera, but I just don't want to drive around drunk people. Couple things I'm going to say when it comes to like the logistics of that, and then I'll get into the pros and cons of doing it. One, a big thing I suggest, because as you can imagine, the biggest thing, Friday and Saturday nights do pay a good amount. However, those are not the only peak hours. You have the morning commutes, 7 to 9 a.m., evening commutes, 5 to 7 p.m., and yes, you do have Friday and Saturday nights, but let's say if you can do the morning or evening commuting hours, just do those. That way you don't have to drive around drunk people. The second thing is to do what I like to call the pregame hours. This is when people are in a good mood, which is something I'll talk about in a second, because I feel like that's in my opinion, the best benefit, in a sense, of driving around drunk people. But people are in a good mood. They're getting ready to go out in a sense, but they're not drunk yet. So maybe they've had a couple drinks. I'd say these hours are anywhere between like 6 or 7 p.m. to about 9 or 10 p.m. So this is when, let's say, people just ended pre-gaming. They're going to the bar. They're going to the nightclub. They're maybe going to their friend's place to start really getting into high gear, so to speak, right? These hours can sometimes have ridiculous surges, sometimes even higher than like a late Friday, Saturday night, or Saturday or Sunday morning. I think because not a lot of drivers are on the road, but these can be a great surging time, right? People are going to be pre-gaming. Of course, they don't want to be driving, so they're not drunk yet, but they know that they eventually will be, so they need to take a Lyft and Uber to get to their destination to really kind of kick off their night, so to speak. So that's another thing I will say. And in addition, a big underrated time to drive is Saturday and Sunday mornings. Although there's some complications there, I'll talk about that in a second, that can be another great time. I mean, if you think about it, people go out, they crash at their friend's place, they wake up 8, 9, 10 a.m. I find between 9 a.m. and 1 p.m. is a really good time to drive on Saturdays and Sundays. One, people are, like, say, leaving their friend's place that they just crashed at. But two, if people want to do, like, say, a day thing, like a Sunday fun day, or, like, say, something fun during a Saturday, and they're going to be drinking, of course, they're maybe not super drunk, although you never know, but at least in that case, you can drive people around, and again, not worry about driving around drunk people. Now, going back to the point of this video, with that being said, well, why do I like it? Being honest, it's really the mood. That's my biggest thing. Like, I still remember the first time I drove on a Friday night, it was just way more fun to me. Now, again, some drivers may agree with me, they may disagree with me. I only did morning commutes and evening commutes when I first started driving. For me, I'm not gonna lie, I'm not much of a morning person, but even still, people would get in the car and they're going to work. So I'd be like, hey, good morning, how are you? They're like, good. And like, you could tell they're just not in the mood. I remember one ride, and the guy was pretty direct with me, which I did appreciate, I will say that. But I said, hey, good morning, sir, how's your day going? He goes, hey, I'm just gonna let you know right now, I know you're being nice, I know you're being courteous, you're just being friendly, asking me how I'm doing. I don't want to talk right now. I just had a son, I just had a kid. All I want to do is spend time with them. But right now, I have to go to work, and I'm not happy about it. I just don't want to talk whatsoever. And he was cool about it. He was nice. He wasn't being like a jerk, but he was being like, look, I'm just not in the mood at 7:30 in the morning to have a conversation. Which, again, I do understand, right? And I found that during the morning commutes, people were just in a really dull mood. They're going to work. In the evening commutes, I found that people were a little bit more upbeat, which I did like. But even still, people were tired. They're like, all right, I just want to go home, relax, maybe watch some Netflix, just kind of like wind down from a very long work day. However, on Friday and Saturday nights, people were always in a good mood. And I feel like, yes, there is kind of like a bittersweet thing to driving around drunk people. The number one thing everyone thinks about is puking, right? That's the number one concern when it comes to driving around drunk people is, what if people puke in my car? I will say, during the entire time I drove for Uber and Lyft, I never once had anyone puke in my car or need to puke in my car in terms of like the, oh God, do you mind pulling over type thing. So I will say this, I may have gotten very lucky. That's why a big suggestion I also have for drivers, have puke bags in your back seat. You never know what can happen, right? I will say that. Like, and, talking about this Saturday and Sunday morning situation, for example, that I did touch upon, one of my friends started driving for Uber. And she's like, hey, why not drive on a Saturday morning? I don't have to deal with the drunk people. Her second ride ever. It was a girl who just had, a bit too much the night beforehand. And she said when she was driving, she had to pull over 2 or 3 times because the girl had to open up the car door, go outside and puke, and then get back in the car. Luckily, nothing touched the car. She didn't get anything inside of the car, but it's still one of those things where when she was driving, she goes, oh God, I've already had to pull over 2 times. Can she control it? Is this going to happen again? Is she going to puke in my car? And this was also only her second ride. Now again, that never happened with me, so I will say, although Saturday and Sunday mornings are great options to not have to drive around drunk people, that can still be a concern. But overall, when it comes to like driving on Friday and Saturday nights, I just liked it more. I found that I would turn up my bass on my car, which is actually a big pro tip I had in my pro tip series called the Bass Adjust. I'd crank up the bass. I would play my EDM music actually, or like just EDM in general. People would get in the car, they'd be in a super good mood. They'd say, hey, we're going to this bar, we're doing this. People were just super happy. And yes, I did have a couple issues. People drinking in the car was kind of annoying sometimes. I really only had one incident where people were a bit too rude about it. I talked about this story with these 3 girls drinking a bottle of tequila. They refused to throw out the tequila. And they said that they would, quote unquote, give me a 4-star rating instead of a 5-star rating if I didn't do a shot with them while I was driving. So that was the only situation where I was like, oh my God, this is ridiculous. But typically I'm like, hey guys, you just can't drink in the car. If I get pulled over, people are like, okay, I get it type thing. That was one issue I had. The second one is people just being drunk and kind of being a bit obnoxious, for lack of a better word, borderline even just annoying, right? Where I'm just like, oh my God, I just want to drop these people off. But I'd say that was only about 10% of the time. For me, driving around 90% of the time, it was people just in a good mood. They were super, super funny, asking me all these questions. I had so many ridiculous rides. And for me, I actually prefer that. There's also something interesting. And again, this is more of like a personal thing. I don't know, I'm just kind of, giving my own personal experience. That I found, like, say, if it was a Friday night, and I was between, okay, do I want to go out with friends, like, say, go out drinking, or go out to a bar, or club, whatever, which can be fun, but also, let's be honest, I can either do that, and just have a typical Friday night, or I can go out driving, not drink, which is obviously better for me, and I make money, too, which obviously is just better for my wallet, right? Which one do I want to do? I found that even still, let's say if I wanted to, quote unquote, go out and just get out of the house, there was something as well about driving on a Friday night that kind of felt like I was going out. I know that sounds weird, but when I would get back from driving, I almost kind of felt like that feeling of getting back from going out, being like, oh man, that was a really fun night. And then I remember, like, wait, I didn't drink, I didn't go to a bar, I didn't go to a club, I just drove people around, and I made money while doing so. So for me, like I said, there was something, I guess, that was super interesting about driving on a Friday and Saturday night that kind of scratched that itch of going out. I know that sounds weird, because I feel like we've all been there. You have a very long week of working, getting a bunch of stuff done. You're like, you know what? I just want to go out on a Friday night and just relax, be with friends, do this, do that, and just kind of chill and like take a break from work, so to speak. And what's weird is when I drove for Uber and Lyft on Friday and Saturday nights, it did scratch that itch for me. Now, granted, that may have just been me. Other people might be like, Mark, no, I don't get that feeling, so to speak, where if I drive on a Friday night, I still feel like I'm working. And of course, yes, it did still feel like that. But I think because I'm around a lot of vibrant people who are, again, 90% of the time in a really positive mood, super genuine, just kind of like really excited to, quote unquote, go out, it was just a lot better. I'd much rather drive a car full of drunk people who are really excited to go out, maybe a little bit rowdy, but excited to go out, than people in a morning or evening commute who are just tired, who don't want to talk, who just want a completely silent car ride. And I'm just there being like, all right, I'm just not going to say anything. I'll just leave the radio running on a very low volume to have some kind of background noise, and that will be it. So overall, again, I gotta say, I love driving around drunk people. I know potentially a very unpopular opinion among Uber and Lyft drivers,